CORD from IBM proposed a relational model for implementing the database. In this model, the physical representation is separate from logical representation. So how the data is stored, that is a machine view. So that is separate from how a user can logically see the data. So this gives a lot of flexibility for database implementers, also the database users. So database users can just simply focus on the logical representation, and database implementers they can focus on the physical representation. This is the mostly used database model as of today. So a lot of databases like Oracle, DB2, MySQL. So most of them falls under this category. They use a relational database model. They use tables to represent data. Table is nothing but a set of rows, and every row can have many columns. Um, so the logical representation is in terms of tables. They can user can model their data in terms of tables. A simple example of a table is this. So you can have a one or more rows, and every row can have um, one or more columns. So this is a table, and let's say this is a customer table. This is a customer ID, his last name, first name, phone number, and his balance. And tables can be also joined by using the same values. So these column values can match, and there is a way to combine the data from more than one table. So we learn as we progress. Um, we look at those how to join those tables. We'll look at as we go. So because of the structural independence, the designing part um, and the database design part, the physical data storage part, they are separate. So implementers can the database implementers can focus on the internal structure, and application developers can focus on the logical view. There is no need to write separate programs to manage different tables. There is a language called structured query language, or SQL. So this can be used to manage data stored in the tables. So you can retrieve data from a table, or you can also modify data in a table. You can also combine data from multiple tables. All these can be done by simply issuing SQL queries. So you don't need to write customized programs to deal to handle data, to process data from different sources, different tables. The issues with this model is, again, you need to install the database software, and also you need a hardware to run your database. And it's a very easy model, and if people are not careful, the data can be inconsistent. There are ways to guard, there are ways to protect your data so that it's not inconsistent. But if you are not careful, your data may get inconsistent. Okay, so let's say if you are having a database design, and this entity relationship model gives a way to represent, or way to model, way to document um, the the entities you have in your database. Okay, so the ER model will have an entity. So entity is anything about which we are collecting data, or we are processing data. And attributes are fields of those entities. For example, entities, we want to manage employee details, and employee can have a Aadhaar card number or social security number, last name, first name, and these becomes attributes of employee. And between entities, there can be relations. It can be one to many, many to many, or one to one. So let's look at, so this ER model, entity relationship model, helps you to document the overall database design. So anybody newly joining a project, they can look at the ER diagram, and from that they know how the data is modeled. So it's a visual structure. So there is a this ER model is represented using diagrams. So visually we can see how the data is organized, and every entity is mapped to a table. And it's a formalized way of describing relationship between entities. In other words, it's a standard. So whether you create a ER model or I create a ER model, will follow the same conventions. So any new user comes who understands the ER model, they can clearly learn how the data is distributed or data is modeled in our database. Okay, there is a first model. There are two models here. One is called Chen model. In this, entities are represented by a rectangle, and inside we are going to use all capital letters for the entity name. So there are two entities here. One is painter, other one is painting. And the way we connect these entities together is with a diamond symbol. And normally we use a verb inside. So in this case, let's say a painter paints one or more paintings. So again, the way we say the multiplicity is by keeping a, a number here, either 1 or m here. Okay, that is what is called connectivity or multiplicity. The way we should read this is we should say one painter paints, and this multiplicity you have to look at now. So one painter paints one or more paintings. So one painter can paint one or more paintings. This M corresponds to one instance of painter, one instance of painter. So you have to read one instance of painter. Can a painter can paint one or more paintings, because M is one or more. Okay. Similarly, the way you should read the other way is one painting. One painting is painted by only one painter. This one is coming from here. So when you read the other way, you say one painting painted by only one painter. The other relationship between entities is many to many. Let's say you have an employee. Employee is an entity, and you also have a skill level. Um, Skill is also modeled as an entity. And let's say this relation is saying one employee can learn one or more skills. The one or more is coming from the n value here. Okay, so one instance of one employee can learn n or more, at least n skills. It can have multiple skills. Again, one skill, if you look at one skill, it is learned by one or more employees. So this is what is called many to many relationship. The other relationship is one to one. For example, in this case, the employee is an entity, store is an entity, and the relationship is manages. So the way we read this is one instance of employee, or every employee or one employee manages only one store. Okay, so you read this one with one instance of this. Similarly, one store here is managed by one instance of employee. So every store is managed by only one employee. So one store is managed by one employee, and one employee manages only one store. So this is called one to one. So between entities, you can have a one to one relationship, and many to many relationship, or one to many relationships. And every entity is modeled as a table. So in database design, this becomes one table, this becomes another table, and there is a way to join these two. And this model is telling how these two elements are related. These two entities are related. Okay, so this is one standard. It's called Chen model. So entity relationship diagram. Another model is also existing, which is called a crow's foot model. So very similar, it's the same example, but the notations are little different here. So entity is still same. It's shown in rectangle and with the capital letters. So this is one entity, painter is one entity, and painting is another entity. And the relationships are simply shown in the middle by connecting those two entities without any diamond symbol. And the multiplicity is shown as 2 vertical lines means 1. So 2 vertical lines means 1, and a crow foot means this. So this is represents a many. Okay, so this is the crow's foot is many, represents many, and these two ones represents 2 vertical lines represents 1. So again, you read the same way. So you can say one painter paints one or more paintings. Okay. Similarly, one painting is painted by only one painter. Okay. Any painting, if you take, it is painted by only one painter. Similarly, one employee can learn one or more skills. So a specific skill can be learned by one or more employees. The same skill can be learned by more than one employee. Similarly here, one-to-one relationship, one employee manages only one store. In other words, one store managed by only one employee. So this is one-to-one relationship. The same information is captured in both, but these are the two models. So wherever you join, the database team can follow one of these models. Okay, if you are having a ER model, then you'll get an overall picture of your data organization. So which can help your programmers and also database designers. Um, Again, there are few issues with this model where we cannot put constraints on the attributes. Let's say one of the columns you want to put a maximum value, or it can only take a few set of values. So such kind of constraints you cannot show in the ER diagram. And also between two attributes. So we are able to show relationships between two entities, but between two attributes also we cannot show any relationship in the ER diagram. So these are the limitations, and there is no programming language that can manipulate your ER diagram. So entity relation diagram you cannot programmatically manage or modify. So only thing is you have to use a graphical user interface tool and draw those diagrams. Again, another small issue is in that diagram, it's very hard to include many attributes. So in the entity we model, we said it's a rectangle box and with a capital letters indicating the name of the entity. But if I have, let's say, 10 attributes, then I need to list all of them there. It's not convenient to include them. So these are the limitations, but at least it's going to give a high level picture how your data is organized and what are the entities exist in your data model and how entities are related with one another. So that kind of high level information is available through ER model. So any database project, they are going to maintain the ER model, and any person joining newly the team, it's better for them to go through the ER model so that they'll get an overall picture. And these days, all the everything is accessible via web. Again, databases are also not an exception. So instead of you installing, you managing the database, you can use the database installed on the internet or in a cloud. So all you need is you need to they are going to provide a graphical user interface through which you can using which you can issue SQL commands to manage your data. So this is how it's work. You are going to use a browser, and this is on the server side. So we don't need to know the details of it, but your SQL commands will be received by a web server, and it's going to use scripts or any programs. Those are going to talk to the database and pass your SQL commands, and the results will be again sent back to you. So as a user, even though you're not installing the database, on the web, many websites are available. You can go there and issue your SQL statements. Again, there are many databases in the market. Popular ones are Oracle database is very popular, Oracle, and DB2 is from IBM. And MySQL is another database. Some of them are open source, like MySQL is open source. Again, these websites, some websites, they only have a specific database, or some of them, they are also providing, giving a way to select the database you want to interact with. Okay, let's say, so if you want to play with the database, you can query online SQL compiler. Then you can get a list of options. Many websites were there where you can go and play with the databases. So one of them is this. Through this, you can select which database server you want to talk to. Okay, Oracle is available here. Okay, then you can issue the Oracle-based commands here, and you can also simply run it. That is going to tell you, show you the answer. So after every SQL statement, you can see the answer. Okay, so you can select another MySQL database, and you can also issue the SQL statements here. Okay, so the SQL syntax we'll learn in a minute, but again, for your practice, if you don't know how to install the database, still you can use any one of these sites and still play with the SQL statements. Okay, so SQL is structured query language. It is a way you can talk to the database where the data is organized in terms of tables. There are many standards out there, ANSI standards, ANSI SQL, and SQL 92 is called SQL2, and SQL 99 is called SQL3. And various vendors like Oracle, MySQL, um, Light SQL, so many other providers were there. They are going to provide either they implement full standard SQL 99, or they may sometimes implement only subset of these specifications. Okay, what we'll be covering here in this session is we'll be only covering the SQL commands that are common across all these standards. The SQL statements are divided into three categories. One is data definition language, so using which you can create new tables. So every new entity you're introducing to your ER model, you can create a new table. So there are commands in SQL to create a new table. And also there is an existing table. If you want to add a few more columns, or if you want to remove an existing column, you can also, there are commands to modify or alter an existing table structure. Again, if you no longer need a table, if you want to remove the table, and along with the data, you want to remove the definition of the table, you can also do that. These commands are called data definition language. Again, you have a data manipulation language in which you can see the data exists in one or more tables by querying, by issuing an SQL statements. You can also modify any rows. You can also create new rows. You can also modify rows. You can also remove existing rows from any table. So other than these data definition language commands and data manipulation DML commands, you also have it. Most of the databases, they give a transaction support. Transaction is nothing but a set of SQL statements that you want to perform as an atomic unit. In other words, if I have a transaction with 10 SQL statements, either I want to perform all of them, or I don't want to perform even one. So it's all or none. Either you perform all the steps or not even one step. But uh, don't perform only few steps and leave it in the middle. So that is not allowed. So many business applications need transaction support. For example, let's say, in simple example is, let's say you have two bank accounts and you want to transfer money from one bank account to another bank account. So let's say the first SQL statement is to deduct some money from account one, and the second SQL statement is to deposit that amount to the second account. So there are two SQL statements. And now let's say if you are able to perform the first one fine, but you failed to perform the second operation, then the data will become inconsistent. In other words, you withdrawn money from one account, but you never deposited anywhere. So that is not allowed. So either you perform those two steps or don't perform any one of them, or any one of the steps, still your data is consistent. Okay, so such requirement is frequently needed in databases. So all the databases provide some way to manage the transactions. Okay, we said the data is organized in terms of tables, and every table can have one or more columns, and all the values in a specific column in one column should have the same data type. So what are the possible data types you can have? And again, every column, the values should be atomic. In other words, you cannot subdivide the values into further sub values. In other words, let's say the question is, let's say, can I put address as one column in a database? Now, the address may include the house number, the street number, the city name, and the state and a pin code. So now if you want to manage these details separately, then you should not put all those details into one column. So you have to create separate column for street name and city name and the pin code and etc. So you cannot have so the value you are keeping inside a cell. Cell means a row and column intersection is called a cell. So in one cell you cannot have um, a combination of values. You can have the value inside a cell must be atomic. Means you cannot subdivide that value any further. Okay. So this is so again all the values in a column belongs to the same data type, and SQL supports different data types. A table is nothing but you have more than one or more columns, and these data types together. Let's say I have a ID for a one column student ID. Second column is a to represent the name of the student. Third one is to represent the phone number of the student. So combining those three columns, I'm saying a table has three columns. Okay, what are the data types you can use inside in the SQL? Um, you can have a string variables, string columns. So there are two flavors available here. One is fixed length. So let's say you have some name with a size 20, and if you so all the values in the column will be always 20 characters. So even if you have, let's say, 10 character string, some spaces will be appended at the end, and every value in that column is made to become 20 character length. The another data wise optimized model is there is varchar 2. So every value can have a different length, that but the maximum length it can have is 40. So you don't need to append, the system won't append spaces at the end. You can have a string with, let's say, 10 characters, another value with 20 characters, another with 40. Okay, so the maximum size you can have is, so you can specify what is the maximum value. And you can also have data types like to represent integers. There are many flavors available in representing integers based on how small or how big you want. There are two real numbers available, floating points available with a different precision. And most of the SQLs also you have a data type called money. So when you display a money column, it also uses the currency symbol in front of it. And there is a predefined a data type called times or dates. Again, based on which database you are using, SQL Server database, they use date time as the data type. Some other the Oracle database and other databases, they use date as the data type. So you have to also look at the specification, what specification they are following. Based on that, we'll also know what exact type we need to use. Okay, this is a simple example for a table. The table name is product, and the attributes names are these: product name, product price, category, manufacturer. So these are your attribute names. So every attribute name has a column, represents a column, and the rows are called tuples or rows. So one row is representing complete information about one product. So what is the product name? What is its price? Which category it falls under? And who is the manufacturer? So one tuple represents information about one product. Okay. So this is the terminology. So table, attributes for columns, and every row is called a tuple, and every row represents one product. So a tuple means one record, one row. And we are saying all the attributes are of atomic type. In other words, the value you are putting inside that cell, you cannot subdivide further. So it should be treated as only one value. A table is nothing but set of rows or set of tuples, and the ordering is not guaranteed. So in other words, if I insert two rows one after another, when I query, it's not guaranteed that you are going to get in the same order. Those two rows will be there, but they can come in any order they like, based on the implementation. You also hear this word called schema. So schema for table means the name of the table, so table name, and also the attribute names. So in other words, in the example we saw, the table name is product, and all the attribute names are P name, price, category, and manufacturer. So this whole thing is called a schema of the table. And some of the attributes can be marked as keys. Key means it should be a unique value. No two rows should have the same value with this column. For example, let's say we are creating a student table. So every row represents one student. So we should not have two rows that are having the same ID number. We know that ID number is unique for every student. So such columns are marked as keys. So any two rows cannot have the same value for that column. So such attributes are called keys. So this is a simple structure for an SQL query. So select attributes. So which columns you want to display, from followed by the table names. So from which tables you want to display the data, and where condition filters out rows. So which rows you want to select. So where condition only whatever condition you specified, the rows that are matching with that condition are selected, and from those tables, and in those rows only the attributes you want to display, you can specify using that select part. Okay, look at a simple example here. Select star. Star represents all columns, and from product, table name is product, where category equals to gadgets. So let's say this is a table. So we are saying you select all the columns from this product table, where category value is gadgets. So category column is this. So you have many values here. So you select the rows whose category values are gadgets. So in other words, you're going to pick only these two rows, and we are displaying all the columns. Okay. So the result of this query becomes this. So this is a simple example how we can issue a select statement. In the next session, we are going to learn more SQL commands, and also I'm going to show the sample inputs and outputs, sample tables. Again, you can practice using one of those online SQL compilers you have. Okay, thank you. We'll see you in the next session.